If you're tired of the standard business and marketing fundamentals, frameworks, and funnels, you need a little mischief. Get ready to turn up the volume on the CEO Mischief Maker podcast, where you access conversations with seasoned business owners who have smashed through mindset barriers, innovated the standard boring business and marketing playbooks, and executed future-paced strategies with bleeding-edge tools and tactics to micro-fail their way into massive success and growth. We are Mindset Impact Strategic Catalysts helping innovative entrepreneurs focus. We are CEO Mischief Makers. Ready to make a little mischief? All right, CEO Mischief Makers, welcome back to Friday. And this is really where the rubber meets the road. This is, we've gone from a high level mindset and energy and all of that to innovation and impacting the next generation and then subsequent generations after that. And now we get to actually put the tires on the road, point it in the direction we want to go, and drive. So, Mr. Nick Cavuoto, tell me, out of what we've already talked about, and especially this next chapter of helping these young men, how are you talked about the 5 key factors. Go into those for me, and actually, how are we going to look at this as daily life? I wake up in the morning. What do I do? How do I tackle my day so that when I go to bed, I've moved the needle even a millimeter?
Yes. So these are the 5 daily practices that David Meltzer talks about, and I just want to encourage everybody. And Mary, there's a video that David has online, and it's right on YouTube, and it's the 5 daily principles. And I just want to encourage everybody to go watch that video. It actually says the 5 daily principles make you rich, which is so funny because it's such a hoodwink, and it's intentional. So people go like, "Oh, I want to figure out how to be rich," and then he teaches them these really strong principles about being a great human being, and it's absolutely fascinating and really, really beautiful how it's structured. Now, what's funny is that I don't have them memorized yet because they're still inside of my journal from when I was with David last time. But it's really centered around, I think, very, very practical ideas around how you can structure your life in order to find what is called the inspired life, not the outcome-based life. And so the outcome-based life is, hey, I want to achieve a sense of worth and value or acceptance and love through my ability to accomplish things for other people. And it sounds noble, but it's outcome driven. And when things are very outcome driven, what happens is we get to the finish line and then we go like, well, now what? Yeah. Because it's not in perpetuity, it's in milestones. And the milestones, when we cross it, if the next milestone's not built, or if we're not, aiming high enough, then what happens is we get to a place of where we go like, I accomplished and I had success way too early. And that's where you land your back at 33 and go like, my life sucks.
Yeah, right. What's it about? And I agree with you when you're talking about outcomes and you judge yourself. One of the words that you used, when you judge yourself and compare yourself, if you meet it or you don't meet it, then you internalize the judgment of yourself. You're either good when you actually accomplish it, or you're bad because you didn't. And really, you're not either of those things. You just are, and you keep moving forward and learn from that and grow from that. But when we attach to those things is when we get into trouble. And that's, I agree. Go back. Hey, CEO Mischief Makers, go back to Monday and listen to that conversation, because that's where you get stuck, when you really identify with those things. So tell me about you. Tell me about how what are the things that you do every day to not just be attached to the outcomes, but to raise that energy, that vibration that you talked about?
Yeah. Well, a lot of the daily practice around that has been, really focusing on the energy side of, like, number one, David mentions is to start with your sleep. Like, his day starts at 9 p.m. on the day before, not at like 9 a.m. on the day after, because the whole process of sleep is really the decoding process of your subconscious mind. So he prepares his subconscious mind, he goes to bed, he allows the integrations to happen, wakes up, goes into meditation to deconstruct or defrag the download that came the night before. And that's been a practice that I've started having a lot of intentionality around, which is just having a better sleep routine, focusing post-sleep routine in order to be still, to be calm, to be present, and to take an inventory of my day. And this is one of the 5 daily practices, which I have my little journal now so I can walk you through it. But one of the 5 daily practices that's wildly important is knowing your what. And this is taking inventory of what you want for the day. So like post, right? You think 9 p.m. starts, you roll into the next day, 4 or 5 a.m. you're up. Then you go like, okay, meditation, meaning being present with, I always look at it effortlessly as being present with yourself. There's no judgment, comparison, or criticism of yourself. You just be present with your thoughts. You just identify them and observe them. And then all of a sudden, all of the ethereal stuff starts popping once the mind calms with what it needs to achieve for the day. So after that infrastructure happens, step number 1, know your what. Take inventory of what you want for the day. And this is a huge thing. There's core values that David's taught me that have been just wildly life-changing. Core values in the what is your personal, experiential giving and receiving values. So personally, how can I help someone else? Experiential. How can someone else help me? Or what can I have that's an experience? That's why I'm traveling so much, is because movement equals manifestation. I'm moving because I'm on the go. The current is alive and it's shifting constantly. Looking at giving and receiving, giving. What contribution? How can I pay it forward today? How can I can ask someone, hey, who here has 20 bucks? They come up, they give me 20 bucks and I give them 100. How do I create a spread of $80 worth of paying it forward and of generosity so that others can receive? And the principle of receiving is really walking through life with open hands. Like, I think it's our ability to receive that empowers everything in our life, not just the trading aspect of, I give to receive, or I'm going to receive and then give it back. It's like, that's quid quo pro, that's nonsense. Receiving is just the ability to be present with something else that someone has to bless you with. And I remember my dad telling us early in life, never reject a blessing that God wants to give you through another person. I mean, this is a huge principle of like, sometimes there's going to be wild things that happen. Don't let your ego, don't let your self get in the way of something that God has to give you. And that's always rang true in my life. I politely usually decline once. And then I have full acceptance. And I tell them, like, if you feel that this is something that God has placed on your heart to do for me, then I'm open to it. So that's been one of the big daily principles, is just identifying those 4 things. And I mean, secondarily, is the who. It's when you figure out what you want, because most people don't know, then you can drive into the who, which is figuring out truly who can help you and who you can help. And that starts driving deeper into the practical steps of like, hey, now that I know what I want, now that I've identified and assessed my world, now I can go like, well, who can I help with what I want and who can help me? It's so simple, right? Isn't it wildly practical?
Yeah.
And yet, this is when we talk about shifting, these are some of the very practical things that you can do. So those are 2 out of the 5, and I could go into more detail, but I'd love your reflection on those so far.
Yeah, definitely. When you're talking about that intention of what really sets us outside of ourselves, right? It really starts us on that path of really, what am I here to do today? And I say this every morning that I wake up. All I want to do is talk to interesting people doing extraordinary things and help in any way I can for them to do those extraordinary things. Participate in it. That's all I want to do. I just want to participate in as many extraordinary events, extraordinary paths, adventures that I possibly can. That's a what. That's not a who. I could have somebody on my calendar I've never met, and someone on my calendar that, or on social media that I connect with. It's whomever that might be. And then I can be intentional on the who if I want, once I figure out the what. But I get that. And that's kind of counterproductive of everything else I've heard, to start with the what and then go to the who, right?
Yeah, well, it's funny because even I've coached people in the past until I was shown a different way. And a lot of times what we do, right? We know what we know, and our level of awareness is in connection to our level of responsibility. And when you take more responsibility, you can communicate the changes you want to make, and then it starts to loop all over again. And your awareness increases, and you go like, well, I was right about that, but wrong about maybe that one part. Because I've told people a lot, because they focus on the how, and the how is becoming a student in your calendar in David's world, which is step 3. So the how is like studying your time and where you're applying your effort and energy. But when you go to the who, it's really like, I used to tell people, focus on the who first, because the question is, who do I need to become?
Yeah.
But then what I realized is when they don't know what they want, they cannot measure who they need to
Right.
become in association with the destination that they want to go towards. So the
Yeah.
what being first, I think just really reorganizes the mind. And that's why I love David. He's like a mathematician first before anything else. And then you get to the who. And honestly, like, here's the simplest part about that. Like, who do you need to ask directions to? Who do you know that's somewhere where you want to be? Most people just don't ask.
Mhm.
Like I asked David to come talk to my mastermind group. That's how I met him. And I filled out a little thing on Guestio, which is like a podcasting platform. I filled it out. I paid the money to have him come speak, and then he refunded it and said, email me, and then came and did it for free. Frequency, generosity.
Yes.
See
Yes.
what I'm saying? And so the
Yes.
who, I knew what I wanted before I asked David to come help. And then after he came and helped, I'm like, wow, how can I spend more time with this guy? And you know what's funny? It was getting time on the calendar, going and visiting him, going to his launch parties, going to SoFi Stadium, going on his TV show. It all became where I was organizing my time, which is categorized in my calendar that I live and die by, right?
Yes.
And it's just really funny how that works.
That's amazing. Yeah, that I love that, because it is true. One of the most difficult parts for anyone that you and I, I'm sure, have mentored or talked to is finding out that who, and that who I want to serve and who I want to become, when we only know our current. How can we really put a name to that, or an idea to that? Only, and the really, unfortunately, then we get trapped into the comparison. I want to be like that person, or I want to be like that person, or I want to have what that person is. So what do I have to do to get that? And then it's not really ours. Then it's not really a who. It's someone else's who. So I love that idea, to start with the what, because you're right. If you look back at all the things we've done, all the things I've done, it really has started with the what. And then, because it's what I enjoy, it's what I want to do, it's what I want to become, not who. And then I can align the who with it after I've decided that. That's brilliant.
Isn't that
Wow.
amazing? And
So
after you
yeah.
figure out how, then you apply the now and you do it now. Like,
Yes.
the most amount of wasted time that people spend is between problem and solution. So 100% of the things that we do now get done, which is why everyone should have the do it now strategy that David teaches, which is just do it now.
Yes.
Having adaptable time gives you the ability to do it now. I've started doing that in my world, just conquering, like Jordan Peterson talks about it. If you have this little thing,
Yes.
it turns into a really big thing when you ignore it for too long. And then the
Yes.
final one is just you apply the why. You remember that your thoughts are about your purpose. And after you've done all of that already, you're so much out of the confusion stage.
You can't help it.
That you don't ask, who am I and why should I, what's my big why? It's just, you just do it. That is your why.
Yeah. And it creates a momentum. It creates a momentum that just keeps you going, and because you've started in that direction, and it is aligned with who you are, and it is at the energy level that you need to be. It is just beautiful. It is absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. I'm telling you, everyone listening, if you are not going to go back and start with the first episode on mindset and listen to these 3 episodes in succession, however many times you need to drill it in, if you just do that, your life will transform. Thank you, Nick, so much for joining me. I'm so honored. I'm so grateful. I cannot wait for the next time we get to chat, and that I get to participate again in the incredible things that you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Much love. Thank you so much.
Okay, hold on. If your mindset was shifted, you were inspired to innovate, and you were spurred into action, don't just move on with your day. Focus, my friend, and take a few minutes to visit CEOmischiefmaker.com to learn more about the value that was shared with you today. Please act now and create some CEO mischief of your own.